Now, can you hear me? How am I coming in? All right. Hello, Gautam and Bella. Welcome. Robert, welcome. Elaine. I'm doing a little test today because I've been rather beat and rather tired. I did not advertise this like I normally do, so we'll see how many people come in. I had a very busy weekend, lugging around sod and laying it down. Very, extremely physical and long weekend that I haven't done in a good amount of years. So even though it's Monday night, I'm still tired. Hopefully by tomorrow morning I'll be recovered. No, no, it was family actually, helping my brother-in-law. Empty Cloud, they they don't have much to do. They're doing less outside work than they used to. They're trying to lessen their outside fiddling. Hello, Douse. Welcome. Let's see. Okay, well, welcome to those who might not be in the chat. Seems we have a decent enough people, I think, to get started. So let's do our chanting. So just to give you guys a heads up, I am probably not going to go the full 2 hours with this. We'll see how I am at an hour, but I might maybe go hour and a half. We'll see. Um, Depends on how how mentally clear I am. I'm not. I'm a little goofy in terms of mental clarity these right now. So, but we'll. I didn't want to cancel Dhammapalooza. The show must go on. All right. So let's do our chanting. We'll do Parigamino Gata, page 75. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Apakkate manussesu yo ye jana parigamino attayang itarapaja tira meva nudavati ye chako sammadakakate dhamme dhamma nuvattino te jana paramessanti machudeyang suduttarang kanhang dhammang vipahaya sukhang bhavetta pandito oka anokang agamma viveke yata duramang tatra bhirantimecceya hitva kameya kinchano periyodapeya tanang chitta kele sehi pandito ye sang sambodhyangesu sammachittang sudbhavitang Addanang patinissagge anupadaya yerata kina sava juttimanto te loke parinibbuto. All right, English. There are few among those who cross over. There are few among humans who go to the further shore. The rest of them run about here on this shore. But those well established in Dhamma, those whose practice Dhamma, are among those who will cross over beyond the realm of death so difficult to escape. Abandoning the way of darkness, cultivating the bright, the wise go from home to homelessness, which for others is hard to enjoy. Desiring that rare delight, renouncing pleasure, owning nothing of defilements of the mind, the wise person should cleanse himself. Those whose minds are well established in the factors of enlightenment relinquish attachments and delight not in clinging. They, untainted and radiant in this very world, attain Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. All right, so welcome to another Dhammapalooza. We're here with the Maggaseka community comes together every Monday night for a 2-hour festival of Dhamma, including chanting, talks, Q&A, guided meditation, etc. Although, as I said, we'll see. I don't know if we're going to go the whole way this time, but maybe we should at least be able to do half. So, if you have any questions you would like me to try answering, if you have any topics you'd like the community to discuss or myself to talk about, you can put those in the chat. I have a sutta ready to go for us to read, which will be a good thing. But we'll see what happens in the chat. As always, you're feel free to talk to each other in the chat, say hello to each other, talk Dhamma, all good. It doesn't interrupt me. It doesn't. It's not disrespectful. It doesn't bother me, and I can read it so I can see when questions and various things pop up that I can make commentary on. So I hope everybody is doing well. We have a new friend with us who is his wife is giving birth tomorrow. He messaged me on the Discord, so he asked for me to do some blessings for the safe birth and safety of mother and child. So let's think of Hassan and his family, so that mother and child can can go through the birthing process safely, and another human being, can join the the human sangha, and practice Dhamma well. It's a very good blessing. Elaine says, "Did you wear your robes when you're when doing lawn work?" Yeah, well, I mean, I always wear robes. I don't wear anything but robes. If you mean this, the outer robe, no. Monks don't wear outer robe when they're working. At least outside dirty work anyway. I've seen some Sri Lankan monks wear their wear their outer robes when they're cooking in the kitchen, but not when you go outside and get dirty and do heavy work. All right. Robert has a question. Ah, is getting to a state of calm samadhi and meditation, then posing a question like what causes suffering, a fruitful way to practice? Um, Possibly. It's kind of like prompting yourself to maybe see something. Ideally, when your mind starts to calm down, you start to basically automatically see things that you didn't see before. And those things are something to investigate. Those things are something um, to contemplate, to observe, to watch, and to see what you can learn from them while your mind is in a calm and tranquil state. You can also say, you can say, let me observe this thought that has arisen is impermanent. It's unsatisfactory. It's soulless. You can reflect on it in this way. But ideally, um, it's kind of like a wordless, thoughtless, deep wisdom, deep insight understanding into something that you're looking for. You're trying to minimize the amount of, vitaka and vichara, going like, what causes suffering, right? That's applied thought, and then sustained thought. Right? These are in the first jhana, but then they fall away once you go to the second jhana. So they have their place, and it could be possibly be fruitful, but I wouldn't recommend it as trying to make it a habit. All right. The chat is quiet today. That's because that's because there's only two people in the participant list, even though it says there's eight people on. So that means there's a bunch of people that aren't in the chat or they're not there. So let's do this. Let's read a sutta and we'll see what happens. Robert asked, thanks, Bante. Is soulless your preferred translation for anatta? Yes, actually, it is. Um, if you go to like Pali English dictionary and you look up anatta, soulless is one of or soullessness is one of the ways you can translate it. And I think that I think that it cuts through a lot of the the mental and verbal diarrhea that people get with like no self, not self, no self, not self. What is this? No self, not self. There- There's a lot of confusion that can happen with people. But most people understand what a soul is, right? Some kind of permanent abiding essence that is me. And the Buddha cuts right through that and says, no. Because that is also what atta is. Atta is a permanent abiding self, like a little being that goes into the body. We would call that a soul. That's me. This body's not me, but that soul is me. So the Buddha says, no, nope, not atta, anatta, not soul, soulless. So I think that it's a better translation to really kind of get more to the point of what anatta is. And it's just less confusing. Then it's so confusing you actually have to be Bhikkhu Bodhi or Thanissaro Bhikkhu and write an article like not self, no self. you know, things like this. It's just confusing. And those are all just different translations. But if you go to Poly English Dictionary, you look up the word, soullessness is there. Welcome, Bhavani. Sean says, my practice has gotten a little strange lately, but it seems to be fruitful, so I'm just going with it. That's good. Yeah, the practice is the practice. Nobody can tell you exactly how your practice is going to go. There's guideposts like jhanas and things like that and satipatthana, but you know, i- no like master, no teacher is going to be able to tell you exactly where you are and what you're doing based on their experience with their own practice and also the experience they get with speaking with thousands of people over years. They can make a good guesstimation, but they don't know exactly. So if it's strange but it seems fruitful, go with it. When it starts to not be fruitful, then maybe you have to do something about it. So let's read Advice to Punna, one of my favorite suttas. So let me just get this set up here. Bhavani asks, where can I find word for word translation for chantings? I want to understand each and every word while chanting Bhante. Well, most chanting books have both Pali and English because both Pali and English are chanted. You can scroll up a couple and see the link for my chanting book, Maggaseka chanting book. You can see the English and the Pali right there. Same thing with Forest Sangha publications, the ones that you'll find at like Amaravati and Abhayagiri. Same thing with Bhavana Vandana, which you'll find at Bhavana Society. Most of these books have both Pali and English. So, advice to Punna. This is very good sutta. Very good sutta related to metta, right? The metta ideal, just like Kakachupama Sutta, but also has some humor in it. Also, just like Kakachupama Sutta. So, so I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then, in the late afternoon, the Venerable Punna came out of retreat and went to the Buddha. He bowed, sat down to one side, and said to the Buddha, Sir, may the Buddha please teach me the Dhamma in brief. When I've heard it, I'll live alone, withdrawn, diligent, keen, and resolute. Well then, Punna, listen and pay close attention. I will speak. Yes, sir, replied Punna. The Buddha said this, Punna, there are sights known by the eye that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. If a mendicant approves, welcomes, keeps clinging to them, this gives rise to relishing. Just want to check the Pali word that he uses for relishing. Hmm. Well, that didn't help. All right, let's get going. Relishing is the origin of suffering. There are sounds known by the ear, smells known by the nose, tastes known by the tongue, touches known by the body, thoughts known by the mind that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. If a mendicant approves, welcomes, and keeps clinging to them, this gives rise to relishing. Relishing is the origin of suffering, I say. So this is not craving because it's not tanha. Let me give me a second here to Pali English Dictionary this and see what this says. Pleasure, joy, delight, craving. All right. Nandi. Finding or giving delight, delighting in, pleasurable, gladdening. So delighting in something is the origin of suffering. There are sights known by the eye that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. If a mendicant doesn't approve, welcome, and keep clinging to them, relishing ceases. So this is very similar. This is like, when I do my guided meditations and I tell you to acknowledge, let go, and return. And when I tell you what let go means is neither to push it away with agitation, nor to get attached to it, to hold on to it, right? And to keep papanching it, to keep propagating it. So Buddha is saying it right here. If a mendicant doesn't approve, welcome, and keep clinging to them, relishing ceases. So what I'm teaching you is to let go, right? To let go of the distraction, whatever's taking you away from the breath, by not giving it any energy, right? Not approving of it, not welcoming it. That doesn't mean you're pushing it away. Doesn't mean you're getting get out of here. You're just not welcoming it. You're just letting it be. Thoughts will arise, distractions will arise. And if you don't touch them, if you don't engage with them, they'll just cease as they arose. They'll just come in and go out. Come in and go out. Come in and go out like a stream. And if you're not engaging with them, they'll have no power over you. When relishing ceases, suffering ceases, I say. There are sounds known by the ear, smells known by the nose, tastes known by the tongue, touches known by the body, thoughts known by the mind that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. If a mendicant doesn't approve, welcome, and keep clinging to them, relishing ceases. When relishing ceases, suffering ceases, I say. Ah, now, here is the best part. Punna, now that I've given you this brief advice, what country will you live in? Sir, there is a country named Suna Paranta. I shall live there. Now, this Suna Paranta is quite interesting. I think I might have remember reading, I don't know if it was a note from Bhikkhu Bodhi or um, someone, that Sunaparanta is Afghanistan. Something is telling, my mind is telling me that I'm pretty sure I remember reading it somewhere that it's Afghanistan. Let's see. I'm just reading the note here on the digital poly reader. Oh well, it doesn't say anything. But this is so anyway. He says, "Sir, there's a country named Suna Paranta. I shall live there. The people of Suna Paranta are wild and rough, Puna. If they abuse you and insult you, what will you think of them? If they abuse and insult me, I will think these people of Suna Paranta are so gracious, truly gracious, that they don't hit me with their fists." Yeah, the the word here being used is subha daka, lucky, auspicious, pleasant. So these people are so pleasant that they don't hit me with their fists. That's what I'll think, Blessed One. That's what I'll think, Holy One. But if they do hit you with your fists, what will you think of them then? If they hit me with their fists, I will think these people of Suna Paranta are gracious, truly gracious, since they don't throw stones at me. Ah, yes, Douse. It is dawning on Douse what sutta this is. All right. Ah, yes, very good, Douse. Recognizing the difference there and seeing the approving, welcoming and approving can be a little different than the clinging. Yep. But if they throw stones at you, what will you think of them then? If they throw stones at me, I'll think these people of Sunaparanta are gracious, truly gracious, since they don't beat me with a club. That's what I'll think, Blessed One. That's what I'll think, Holy One. But if they do beat you with a club, what will you think of them then? If they beat me with a club, I'll think these people of Sunaparanta are so gracious, truly gracious, since they don't stab me with a knife. That's what I'll think, Blessed One. That's what I'll think, Holy One. But what if they do stab you with a knife? What will you think of them then? If they stab me with a knife, I'll think these people of Suna Paranta are so gracious, truly gracious, since they don't take my life with a sharp knife. That's what I'll think, Blessed One. That's what I'll think, Holy One. But if they don't take your life with a sharp knife, what will you think of them then? If they take my life with a sharp knife, I'll think they are disciples of the Buddha who looked for someone to assist with slitting their wrists because they were horrified, repelled, and disgusted with the body and with life. And I have found this without looking. That's what I'll think, Blessed One. That's what I'll think, Holy One. Good, Punna, good. Having such self control and peacefulness, you will be quite capable of living in Sunaparanta. Now, Punna, go at your convenience. And then Punna welcomed and agreed with the Buddha's words. He got up from his seat, bowed, and respectfully circled the Buddha, keeping him on his right side. Then he set his lodgings in order and, taking his bowl and robe, set out for Sunaparanta. Traveling stage by stage, he arrived at Sunaparanta. and stayed there. Within that rainy season, he confirmed around 500 male and 500 female lay followers. And within the same rainy season, he realized the three knowledges. Sometime later, he became fully extinguished. Then several mendicants went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, Sir, the gentleman named Punna, who was advised in brief by the Buddha, has passed away. Where has he been reborn in this life? Mendicants, Punna was astute. He practiced in line with the teachings and did not trouble me about the teachings. Punna has become extinguished. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said. So, for those of you who don't know about the when Punna is asked about, well, what if they kill you? And he says, well, there's disciples of the Buddha that looked for people to do it, and I didn't even have to look. And so this is from the story of this is from the story you see in the Vinaya and the Suttas, where the Buddha advises mindfulness of death to monks, and then he goes into seclusion and he comes out. And these monks so practice mindfulness of death to the point where they had so much disgust and hatred of their bodies that they killed themselves and found people to kill them. Right, so that there's this debacle where the Buddha comes out and of his seclusion, and like most of the monks are gone, and he asks Ananda, "Where did everybody go?" And Ananda tells him the story. Right, so this is the story. This is what Punna is referring to when he talks about this. When he says, "Whoa, this is so amazing." All these monks had to search for somebody. I found it without even looking. That's comedy. That's sutta comedy right there. All right. Before we move on to the next one, any commentary, questions? I'll give it a minute or two in the chat. All right, let's read the next one. Advice from Nandaka. So I have heard. At one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then Mahapajapati Gautami, who was the Buddha's foster mother, his aunt, who who breastfed him and took care of him after his mother Maya died. So together with around 500 nuns, approached the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and said to him, "Sir, may the Buddha please advise and instruct the nuns. Please give the nuns a Dhamma talk." Now, at that time, the senior monks were taking turns to advise the nuns, but Venerable Nandaka didn't want to take his turn. So it's in the Vinaya that on the full moons, once or twice a month, bhikkhunis are to be given like a Dhamma talk, which is freaking amazing. When I was at Bhavana Society, the bhikkhunis got more Dhamma talks from Bante Ji than I did. But this is how it goes, right? Like you have these great teachers who are going to give you a Dhamma talk like once or twice a month. It's a pretty good deal. But that's where this is coming from. right? The monks are taking turns to teach, to go and share Dhamma with the bhikkhunis, and Nandaka's like, nah, I don't want to do this. Venerable Nandaka didn't want to take his turn. Then the Buddha said to the Venerable Ananda, Ananda, whose turn it is to advise the nuns today? It's Nandaka's turn, sir. But he doesn't want to do it. Then the Buddha said to Nandaka, Nandaka, please advise and instruct the nuns. Please, Brahmin, give these nuns a Dhamma talk. Yes, sir, replied Nandaka. In the morning he robed up and taught, taking his bowl and robe, entered Savatthi for alms. He wandered for alms in Savatthi after the meal. On his return from alms round, he went to the royal monastery with a companion. Hmm, that's interesting. The Pali word is Raja Karano. Raja is king or ruler. Karano is a prison or a confinement. So the royal monastery is a prison. Those nuns saw him coming off in the distance. So they spread out a seat and placed water for washing the feet. Nandaka sat down on the seat spread out and washed his feet. Those nuns bowed and sat down to one side. Nandaka said to them, Sisters, this talk shall be in the form of questions. When you understand, say so. When you don't understand, say so. If anyone has doubt or uncertainty, ask me about it. Why, sir, did it just say this? What does that mean? We're already delighted and satisfied with Venerable Nandaka since he invites us invites us like this. What do you think, sisters? Is the I permanent or impermanent? Ah, speaking of anatta, here we go. Impermanent, sir. But if it's impermanent, is it dukang va sukang? Is it pleasant or unpleasant? Is it suffering or happiness? Dukang bante. Dukkha. Suffering, unpleasant. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, meaning subject to rise and cease, is it fitting to be regarded as thus? This is mine. I am this. This is myself. No, sir. What do you think, sisters? Is the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, sir. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering, sir. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded as thus? This is mine. I am this. This is myself. No, sir. Why is that? Because we have already truly seen this with right wisdom. So these six interior sense fields are impermanent. Ah, so these nuns are saying that they have already attained great states where they can see with wisdom this already. So these six interior sense fields are impermanent. Hello, Sindhu, welcome. Good, good sisters. That's how it is for a noble disciple who truly sees with right wisdom. What do you think, sisters? Are sights permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, venerable sir. But if they're impermanent, are they suffering or happiness? Dukang va tang sukang va. Dukang bante. But if they're impermanent, suffering, and perishable, are they fit to be regarded thus? This is mine. I am this. This is myself. No, sir. What do you think, sisters? Are sounds, smells, tastes, touches, thoughts permanent or impermanent? Anicca bante, impermanent. But if they're anicca, are they dukkangva, sukhangva? Are they suffering or happiness? Dukkang bante. But if they're impermanent, suffering, and perishable, are they fit to be regarded as thus? Etang mama, eso hamasmi, eso me attati. This is mine. I am this. This is myself. No hetang bante. No, sir. Why is that? Because we have already truly seen this with right wisdom. So these six interiors, sense fields, are impermanent. So we went the interior, salayatana, right? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Now we just went through exterior, right? Forms, sounds, odors, tastes, tactile objects, and thoughts. All right. So these six exterior sense fields are impermanent. Good, good sisters. That is how it is for a noble disciple who truly sees with right wisdom. What do you think, sisters? Is eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness permanent or impermanent? Anichang bante. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering, bante. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, I am this is myself. No, sir. Why is that? Because we have already truly seen that with right wisdom. So the six classes of consciousness are impermanent. And so this is important to understand here that this is when the Buddha talks about consciousness in the suttas, almost always he's talking about it in connection or in the framework of the six senses: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness. And when you have the meeting of the three, you have the eye, you have forms, you have eye consciousness, well, then you have eye contact. And with the arising of contact, feeling. And with the arising of feeling, craving. So these six sense classes of consciousness are impermanent. Good, sir. Good, good, sisters. That's how it is for a noble disciple who truly sees with right wisdom. Suppose there was an oil lamp burning. The oil, wick, flame, and light were all impermanent and perishable. Now suppose someone was to say, while this oil lamp is burning, the oil, the wick, and the flame are all impermanent and perishable. But the light is permanent, lasting, eternal, imperishable. What does that sound like? Does that sound like a soul? Would they be speaking rightly? No hetang bante, no. Now think about this. This is a good simile. So you have the oil lamp so you have the oil, the wick. The wick is the cloth that burns, right? One end of the wick is in the oil, the other end of the wick is burning. You go to Bhavana and stay in, or any monastery, well, on the East Coast. On the West Coast, and in Australia, you can't do it. Those are banned. But you get oil lamps, and that's what this is. It has like a braided piece of cloth that's specially made for these things. The bottom of it is in the oil, and the top of it burns. The fire comes off. So you have the oil, the wick, the flame, and the light. Okay. Yeah. So could you have a light that it is conditioned on all of these things before it that are impermanent? Could something that is permanent rest on something that's impermanent. If a house has a shoddy foundation, liable to fall away, is that house going to be is that house going to be permanent? No. How can it be? Why? Because the oil, lamp, wick, and flame are all impermanent and perishable, let alone the light. Right? This is an important thing to understand here with sankharas. Very important thing to understand that you can't if the building blocks of something are impermanent, then whatever is built from it is impermanent. You get a bunch of Legos and you make a thing. Like you play with kids and you watch us, so they make all kinds of contraptions. But then you know what they do? They go rah, and that Lego, that contraption that they made breaks back to its constituent parts. Neither the parts were permanent, nor the thing created by those parts were permanent. None of them were. Just checking something real quick. All right. In the same way, suppose someone were to say, these six interior sense fields are impermanent, but the feeling, whether pleasant, painful, or neutral, that I experience due to these six interior sense fields is permanent, lasting, eternal, imperishable. Would they be speaking rightly? No, sir. Why is that? Because each kind of feeling arises dependent on the corresponding condition. See, I called it already. No, if you read the suttas, you know what's coming. The Buddha is very consistent across 5,000 pages. Why is that? Because each kind of feeling arises dependent on the corresponding condition. When the corresponding condition ceases, the appropriate feeling ceases. Good, good sisters, that's how it is for a noble one, noble disciple who truly sees with right wisdom. Suppose there was a large tree standing with heartwood. The roots, the trunk, the branches, and the leaves, and the shadow were all impermanent and perishable. Now suppose someone were to say, there's a large tree standing with heartwood. The roots and trunk and branches and leaves are all impermanent and perishable. But the shadow is permanent, lasting, eternal, and imperishable. Would they be speaking rightly? No, sir. Why is that? Because the large tree's roots, trunks, and branches and leaves are all impermanent and perishable, let alone the shadow. In the same way, suppose someone were to say these six exterior sense fields are impermanent, but the feeling, whether pleasant, painful, or neutral, that I experience due to these six exterior sense fields is permanent, lasting, eternal, and imperishable. Would they be speaking rightly? No, sir. Why is that? Because each kind of feeling arises dependent on the corresponding condition. When the corresponding condition ceases, the appropriate feeling ceases. Good, good sisters. That's how it is for a noble disciple who truly sees with right wisdom. Suppose a deft butcher or their apprentice was to kill a cow and carve it with a sharp meat cleaver, without damaging the flesh inside or the hide outside. They'd cut, carve, sever, and slice through the connecting tendons, sinews, and ligaments, and then peel off the outer hide. Then they'd wrap that cow up in that very same hide and say, "This cow is joined to its hide, just like before." Would they be speaking rightly? No, sir. Why is that? Because even if they wrap that cow up in that very same hide and say, "This cow is joined to its hide just like before," still the cow is not joined to the hide. I've made up this simile to make a point, and this is the point. The inner flesh is a term for the six interior sense bases. The outer hide is the term for the exterior sense bases. The connecting tendon, sinews, and ligaments is the term for greed and relishing. A sharp meat cleaver is a term for noble wisdom. And it is the noble wisdom which cuts, carves, severs, and slices the connecting corruption, fetter, and bond. Sisters, by developing and cultivating these seven awakening factors, a mendicant realizes the undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom in this very life, and they live having realized it with their own insight due to ending of defilements. What's seven? It's when a mendicant develops the awakening factor of mindfulness, investigation of principles, energy, rapture, tranquility, immersion, and equanimity, which rely on seclusion, fading away, and cessation of, and ripening as letting go. It is by developing and cultivating these seven awakening factors that a mendicant realizes the undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom in this very life. And they live having realized it with their own insight due to the ending of defilements. Then, after giving this advice to the nuns, Nandaka dismissed them, saying, "Go, sisters, it's time." And then those nuns approved and agreed with what Nandaka had said. They got up from their seat, bowed, and respectfully circled him, keeping him on their right. Then they went up to the Buddha, bowed, and stood to one side. The Buddha said to them, "Go, nuns, it's time." Then those nuns bowed to the Buddha, respectfully circled him, keeping him on their right, before departing. Soon after those nuns had left, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. "Suppose, mendicants, it was the Sabbath of the 14th day. You wouldn't get lots of people wondering whether the moon is full or not, since it's obviously not full." In the same way, those nuns were uplifted by Nandaka's Dhamma teaching, but they still haven't found what they're looking for. Then the Buddha said to Nandaka, "Well then, Nandaka, tomorrow you should give those nuns the same advice again." "Yes, sir," Nandaka replied. And the next day he went to those nuns, and all unfolded just as the previous day. And in the Pali, it literally repeats the same exact thing. So we're going to scroll all the way back. Okay, here we go. Soon after those nuns had left, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. "Suppose, mendicants, it was the Sabbath of the 15th day, you wouldn't get lots of people wondering whether the moon is full or not, since it's obviously full." In the same way, when those nuns were uplifted by Nandaka's Dhamma teaching and they found what they were looking for. Even the last of these 500 nuns is a stream enterer. So every one of those bhikkhunis became at least a stream enter, not liable to be reborn in the underworld, bound for awakening. This is what the Buddha had said. Satisfied, the mendicants were happy with what the Buddha said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's a very good sutta, especially in relation to not self or soullessness or no self. Which one is it? All right, friends. Well, I think I'm going to call it a night. I think I'm pretty tired. So next week is going to be interesting. Next Monday, I'll be in Colorado. Um, oh, we got a question. No problem. We'll keep that. But I'll continue with what I was going to say. We'll stay on a bit longer. So next week, I'm going to be in Colorado on Monday, and I'm going to possibly attempt to do Dhammapalooza with a phone and a tablet. That's going to be a first one. We'll see how that works. But that should be an interesting try anyway. But Saturday I leave to go to Colorado. Sean Esponte, I have been feeling the desire to enter a secluded practice more often. Is there a modern equivalent? Yeah, every once in a while, go to a go to a monastery, or go to a park. Go to the woods somewhere. Just go find a nice spot that you can go to fairly regularly. Maybe even if it's just on the weekends, and just go for a couple hours. Just get away. Get away from the house and the daily grind, and be somewhere else. Be out in nature. All right, friends. So, well, let's do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chanidukka baya patta chanibaya soka patta chanisoka hontu sabbe pipaniyo etavata chamehi sampatang punya sampatang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti sittiya akasata chabumata deva naga mahiddika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the grieving ones be grieving free, and the fear struck fearless be. Wait. That may the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may Hassan's wife and child have a safe and pleasant childbirth. Okay, friends. Until next time. Sukhihotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well. We will continue with Morning Monastery Experience for this week. And I should be able to do it next week as well while I'm in Colorado. There might be exceptions to that. But, oh, Gregory, have we met before? The name doesn't necessarily ring a bell. At least the last name doesn't. So if you're new to us, you came on a day where I'm cutting it in half. We're ending a bit early, but normally we go from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. So friends, until next time, may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice. See you in the mornings for a morning monastery experience. Thursday night for uh, session on the Buddha Center. And I should also be getting a Ask a Bhante out on Wednesday. So if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer for Ask a Bhante, please send it to me via email or send it to me in the Discord, stuff like that. Okay, friends, have a good night.